Take a moment. Thank you. So again, thank you to Tupten Kunga Center, Patty and Cecilia for hosting this evening. And thank you to all of you for joining. We are on session 3. And I'd like you to just take a moment right now to find a comfortable meditation posture for yourself, whatever is comfortable. That's the most important part. You can lightly close your eyes. Just allow yourself a little bit deeper breathing right now. Take a moment to make sure your body is as relaxed as possible. You just scan to find places you might be holding tension. And just breathe into those tense areas, opening up some space there if you can. And upon an exhalation, releasing some of that tension as much as possible. And let's consider our motivation right now for our time, setting the mind in a most positive direction, and really considering this thought of all living beings and benefiting them. And if we could become Buddhas, we would be able to do that perfectly. This is the module on presenting the path. This is a very constructive method to take you along to enlightenment from the information we get in this class. So think about if I can invest that, develop this very consistent practice, but it takes effort and time. Be patient with yourself. Then I can reach that place where I can benefit all living beings. If you'd like that, please roll that into your meditation, into your motivation right now. Setting a good motivation for our time together. I'm going to bring you through one of the meditations specifically for this module about renunciation. So again, if you want to do these meditations, either print out the sheet or bring it up on your device, computer, tablet in front of you. You read a few sentences and then more deeply contemplate with your own life experience, things you've heard in the class, things you've read in books, coming from every angle to analyze, to bring yourself to a deeper understanding that may generate renunciation more and more in your mind. which is truly, in many ways, giving up whatever disturbs your mind. It is usually about letting go of delusion and transforming them. So let's explore for a moment. I'd like you to just consider the fully renounced mind is a mind that gives up not only suffering itself, but the causes of suffering. The causes of suffering. The causes of suffering, according to this tradition, are karma and delusion, sometimes called mental afflictions, as I've listed before. Anger, attachment, confusion, pride, jealousy, anxiety, depression. I think you get the idea. So take a moment right now. The first contemplation we're going to do, we want to generate a revulsion, actually, of other states of existence where people suffer more than they do in our realm, in your life right now. Okay? So I'd like you to just think right now about the suffering on the planet, for one. The suffering on the planet. And we know there's a lot of confusion on the planet right now, whether it's global warming, and everybody kind of in denial about that, the invasion of Ukraine, the poverty and hunger all over the planet, and the huge migrations of people that are shifting because of global warming, so they can't feed their animals anymore. There's no water, maybe no access to healthcare, like that. So I'd like you to just look more than the specifics of the 6 realms. I'd like you to just think about your life on the planet. Think about the people you know who are very, very comfortable, like in a God realm. Those are upper realms of existence, the God realms. There's a hedonistic God realm, and there's a jealous God realm. So hedonistic, they experience so much pleasure, they have no incentive to practice Dharma. Okay, it's not enlightenment. When that life ends, they suffer greatly and they end up often going to a lower realm. And then there's a jealous God realm that looks at the hedonistic God realms and is just consumed with jealousy. Not peaceful at all. Then we have humans. So think about many humans and their different situations. The lower realms are made up of the animal realm. So you can focus on that a bit. The hungry ghost realm, created by intense desire and grasping. These people are consumed all the time with hunger and thirst. So they can actually hear the Dharma, but it's hard for them to practice because they're just consumed with trying to find a little morsel of food that constantly escapes them. And then you have hell realms of immense torture and suffering, just like you would imagine. Sometimes we know people as humans that seem to be going through a hell realm. Okay, so I'd like you to just, as you close your eyes, just float through these different realms. Can you find any everlasting happiness and peace in any of these existences? And just think for a moment, there is no peace in samsara. I'm sorry, there is no peace in samsara. Samsara again means to turn or to cycle, representing cyclic existence. And that's a situation you take rebirth in as an ordinary human being, not as a Buddha or highly realized being, when you're beyond samsara. So it's nice to know we can get beyond samsara. Is there any peace that you can find? A long-lasting peace that will grow and manifest continually in samsara. And check out these different realms to a point where it terrifies you to come back in those realms and you feel done with the situation that we're in. You need to change something about that situation to get out of samsara. Let that grow in your heart if you can. And when you have more time, really take each realm on its own slowly. Take 10 or 20 minutes just on one realm. And think about what it would be like, for instance, to have pleasure all of the time. It would feel good for a while. We gravitate to that. But then a little guilt comes in because not everyone is experiencing that pleasure. So, do you really experience the pleasure if you know other people are suffering? Do you have much incentive to practice Dharma when everything's swimming along wonderfully in your life? So, slowly you can take each one I'd love you to do this week. And then again, as you contemplate each one, fix your mind on this conviction: I no longer want to ever be born in cyclic existence again. If you can generate that feeling in your heart, focus all of your concentration there. And deepen that experience. So please relax and slowly, when you're ready, open your eyes. So the meditations like that and I would call it analytical meditation, okay, are designed that you analyze something. So when you're analyzing, you really need to come from every angle very slowly on one specific topic. And what happens is Westerners are bored and they don't really know how to do it properly. But it's very effective for your mind when you can do it consistently. And if you can ever get into a retreat mode where you're doing several sessions a day just of Lam Rim meditation, it really has the ability to shift your mind. That's where you start getting those mini insights that develop into greater insights and realizations. That's when your life starts changing. So I can't say it enough, and I find more and more people aren't doing those kind of meditations. They're really, really significant. So you can start just in your own life, just small segments, really understanding till you realize that intellectual understanding here, well, I know the hell realms are awful. Well, we understand that, but I don't quite have it here at the heart level, where I realize it would not be bearable for me to come back in that existence. I better do something now. I better do something now to plant some seeds that are going to move me out of cyclic existence. Okay? Everybody understand? So that's what these meditations are designed to do. So really try to do that, I would say, this week. I'm just making a note of the homework. So that's the renunciation meditation, renunciation. And it's a longer meditation. You break it down one thing at a time, slowly, slowly, slowly. Okay.
Venerable Amy, let me interrupt for 1 second. I'm so sorry. Cecilia says that when she puts speaker view, she sees me. Is Cecilia the only lucky one, or I'm going to try and unpin you, Venerable Amy, and repin you and see if that works. I'm so sorry.
Sure. That's fine. No problem.
Okay. Okay. Pin and pin.
I don't get that when I'm on it. I can see Venerable Amy.
You see me. Okay. I want to ask, and also Dinah, Lou, if you're able to turn your cameras on, it would be really great as well. In meditation, it's okay. You want to have the camera off. I get it. But in the classes, it can be really helpful so we can see you and we know you're here with us. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question about that meditation?
Yeah, please.
Are you trying to, like, when you do that, say the hungry ghost or the hell realms, are you trying to translate that into you being born back into a country where there's wildfires or where there's, like, are you relating it to any, like, how do you do that as far as like?
Sure. And now here's the other thing it's going to require you to do is you have to read the Lam Rim and know what you're going to meditate on. And the lower realm parts, people don't like to read it. It's gruesome. It's like a horror story. It really is. When you get to the hell realms, it's really like Westerners really, but the thing is, read it, you get these details. When you're reading Lam Rim, this is an effective way. If you're just sitting in a chair reading, it's okay. Why don't you pause for a moment and do a little 10-minute meditation there? Really think about what you're reading. So you might read something about these hell realms and go, oh my God, like, does it exist? Can I really come back like that? Like, that's horrible. But the thing is, people on the planet living like that right now. What's going on in Ukraine? They attacked somebody, they stabbed them. You've seen when there's riots in prisons, the things they do to each other. It's like you're in a hell realm. You don't have to think about some special realm. It's going on right here on planet Earth. So what I would do is, even if you're reading, you first want to read to understand what you're reading. If I say meditate on hell realm, maybe you've never read that part, so you don't really know what I'm talking about. So you'd slowly do some reading and study. So it does take effort, okay? But this is the path out of here. This is your ticket to freedom. Who wouldn't want that? But we're so enmeshed with, relative happiness. You could have incredible happiness forever and never have problems again. So I have friends, we discuss this when you're in Buddhist communities. One time I was at the Light of the Path retreat, sitting with a friend in the back. The nuns sit up front, but we were just taking a break, sitting next to me. He's really funny. And he leaned into me and we're looking at the whole room of people, 200 people there maybe. And he leaned into me and he said, hey, look at all these people. He goes, how many of them do you think really want to get free? Right? So it's something to ask yourself, because we're relatively free right now. We have an okay time. But what about capital F freedom? Capital F freedom. Really think about your relation to that on this path, because that might require more effort, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. Look at the alternatives. People have problems, they have things. So what you're doing, Maureen, is you're first, you have to know what to meditate on, and then really go into that, let's say a hell realm existence, and go into the person in the burning room, and there's no door out. They're in there and the fire's coming. That's what you want to put your mind in, that space, and go, what if you were really in that? We have dreams like that sometimes, right? And when you're in the dream and you go, my God, get me out, you're screaming, and then you wake up and you go, oh. So you want to have that kind of terror in your mind, then use it, drive it into your heart. I got to get out of this system. I got to get out of this cycle of existence. This is not about suicide. This is not about suicide. I'm talking about make a determination in your heart and mind. I'm going to drive this into my practice and do the things I'm supposed to do in my practice to wake up, to get me to wake up as fully Bud, okay? Means to awakening. Buddha. Okay, it's not Buddha, it's Buddha, Sanskrit. Buddha means awakening, awakened being. Okay, so what can I do? Again, please, realistic adjustments is all we can do. You're not going to tomorrow go, oh, I'm going off for a 3-month retreat. Okay, that's not really likely in a lot of your lives. You're working people, you have families, but what little adjustment can you realistically make that you have a little bit more time for that practice? I can't do it for you, but so Maureen, I don't know if that helps. You're going to take each of those situations slowly. When I mention sometimes what's it like to be an animal? And walk around in a cat's life and look at what they eat. It's disgusting. Their cat food smells, but it's better to go to an animal in the wild. That's most animals. What's their life? You see how animals eat and they're always looking around. Something's going to eat them. What's it like to eat like that? Imagine you go to your favorite restaurant, you sit down and is the murderer coming? Is the murderer coming? Somebody gonna, can't eat like that. Gulping food down, I remember once, God, it was so hard when you're in India and there's some really difficult dogs that are starving, it's just parts of undeveloped countries. And I was in this place in India, I don't remember, but I ran into, and it's always the mother dogs nursing. She was starving. She had these puppies nursing, and she obviously couldn't leave them, couldn't find food. Strays have to look for food anyway. Nobody was tending. She's out on the street. I found her. So I went off to buy, I know this isn't great, but I went off to buy chicken to feed her. Dead chicken to feed her. I wasn't going to kill a chicken, but obviously somebody killed the chicken. But I went off at a restaurant to buy chicken. I got it packaged up. But the way they sell the chicken there, it has a bunch of bones. Chicken bones are not good for dogs. They splinter. And, so I was going to take it off the bone, and I brought the package over to her, and she's in this dark alley. And I started to take the meat off the bone and she was so starving. She just dove into the bag and just started chomping, devouring whatever was there, bones and all. Like I couldn't really stop, So it's like, you see things like this and you go, God, I can't come back into an animal rebirth. I can't. So I really want to have that strong thing that I'm going to work with whatever disturbs my mind, and work with the antidotes, the techniques, my meditation practice. I'm going to come to classes. I'm going to read. I'm going to study because I need to learn to counteract whatever disturbs my mind. And I'm going to commit myself to that. That makes sense? But again, it's a process. Slowly, it's a process. We can do this. We can do this together. It's possible. And some of it you have to do on your own. So thank you. That was a good question. So what I want you to consider, and I mentioned this briefly in the meditation to see who's paying attention. I just want to ask you, where does your suffering come from? Have you ever thought about that? Like, you suffer We suffer in different ways. Like Patty just said, oh, I have horrible thoughts. This week wasn't good. I had terrible thoughts coming through. Okay. Someone else I spoke with today was saying, there were some issues going on between her kids and she's worried about it. And, they weren't getting along and she's concerned about that. And we always have, stuff. We're always concerned about our kids like that. Some other people might be working, my particular workplace, has its various concerns of trying to reopen a big center, Dharma center. Some of you are serving centers. Patty, Cecilia, I'm sure some of the rest of you have been involved in centers. So, but even your workplace has issues, may have issues. So think about those kind of concerns that come up. Where does it come from, the suffering? Anybody?
It comes from your mind.
Comes from your mind, yeah. And what about your mind more specifically?
For me, it's fear.
Your fear?
Fear, yes.
Fear? Okay, what's fear called? What would you label fear as?
I don't understand the question. Fear,
What kind of category would you put fear in that we talk about in Buddhism?
Negative.
Negative, delusion. I would call fear one of the delusions. Delusion's one of the things that your suffering comes from. And the other thing, Tibetan Buddhism says two things that your suffering comes from. Delusion and
Grasping.
grasping's part of that. Grasping's a delusion. Grasping, that's a good response. Who else was going to say, was it Jack or somebody?
Ignorance.
Sorry?
Ignorance.
Ignorance is a delusion. So you guys are all there with the delusions, absolutely. What's that K word?
Karma.
Karma. Karma and delusion. That's where your suffering comes from. Karma and
Pleasure.
delusion. So let's look at this, karma and delusion. What does that mean really? Okay. So karma, again, is very key to this class. Is karma is action. It's a Sanskrit word for action. It's the movement of your mind. So every time your mind shifts and moves and it fluctuates on a gross level, on a subtle level, on a most subtle level, which we're not aware of the subtle and the most subtle mostly. We're aware of the gross level of how, like Patty said, I had these horrible thoughts. Okay, that's a gross level of mind. Okay. But it does fluctuate and it shifts. And then what it does is it creates activity in our body, speech, and mind. And when that body, speech, and mind activity is something positive, we buy somebody flowers with a good intention, take somebody out to dinner with a good intention, show up at a class with a good intention, doing my meditation, good motivation, like those create positive imprints in your consciousness. And positive imprints in your consciousness definitely ripen in the future for your mind as happiness for your mind. Negative activities that go on with your body, speech, and mind plant seeds of negativity in your consciousness, and they will ripen in the future, definitely, for your consciousness in this life or another life, this form or another form will ripen as negativity and suffering in your mind, in your life, like that. And that's how karma works. Cause and effect relationship. There's a cause you create with the activities of your body, speech, and mind, plants a seed, cause, imprinted, and that cause will come to fruition and ripen in an effect. So there's a cause and effect relationship to everything we do, think, and say, like that. So what we want to do is get very clear and careful about our activities, and that's part of the path. So let's talk about how we're going to move through this, basically. But it's interesting to look at where the suffering comes from and ask yourself, and even in this class and beyond, of if Patty said she had horrible thoughts. Again, Patty, you really need to get clear with yourself. Well, what were the triggers? And as Westerners, this is the way I would respond. What are the triggers? Who was around me? Is it always the same people I notice around me that create, because we have negative influences around us too, right? And here's the thing about Dharma communities, which I love about Dharma communities, is we're often together talking about Dharma when we're in our communities. And this is, mildly funny, but it relates to the hell realms. Years ago, when I was running Vajrapani and living in California, some friends of mine, we were talking about the hell realms, and we were comparing as teachers like we don't linger a lot on the hell realms with Westerners because it turns Westerners off and they don't really have faith in it and they're not really sure about it. And it gets into kind of, Judeo-Christian guilt tripping and, you're going to go to hell and things like that. So, but some of us talked about our own meditations on the hell realms and that we had studied and read and done meditation on. And we were, jokingly talking about our favorite hells. Okay, this is what Dharma practitioners do. Meaning when I say favorite hells, it would be like, which is the one we used to talk about that really got us, that really nailed us, where we went, I got to practice. Like, that's scary. One of my friends was, his was, there's a hell where they pull your tongue out and they drive like some kind of truck with nails over it. Well, and again, these are kind of exaggerated mindsets or existences. Mine is the burning hot stake driven diagonally through your body, and when it gets through your body, it bursts into flames. That was the one. When I read that, I went like, I got to do something about my mind. Right? But I'm saying in a jokingly way, it can motivate you. When you're getting real with your practice, it's okay to joke about these things because you're chewing on them, you're cooking them. And it's great to have a Dharma community. And I hope when we open up, and I will be in Florida in person for a small group of people when what's appropriate, but you meet and you talk about it and you go out afterwards for dinner and you go out for a cup of tea. And this is what you're talking about. Like that meditation, that retreat I did, and it starts getting exciting. And we can do that. We really need that right now in these degenerate times. We had that a lot in the 90s. The students before me had it in the 70s and the 80s. We can create that again. I know we can, like that. That's why we need our centers like that. So does that make sense? I just want to really have you get real with what's going on and not have it be some kind of, she's talking about hell realms. I don't know what she was talking about. But this is the way I kind of, you read about something, it terrifies you. So what does it mean for your practice then? Don't just stay with the paralytic fear. That was awful. I'm done with Buddhism. They're talking about, hell, something. What does it mean in your life? Because we see people on planet Earth that are living in hell realms right now. And for me, that's not okay. I am so motivated to do something about it. I can't bear the suffering. I can't bear the suffering at times. I can't bear my own suffering, but then to have somebody else like that. So let's talk about how do we get on this path. And guru devotion is the next topic I want to talk about, but I'm going to bring it in a later class. I want to bring it in a later class. It's kind of a preliminary to the Lam Rim. Now I want to talk about precious human rebirth. And these are all topics I'm going to go into of the lower scope motivation that I explained in the last couple sessions, that you're motivated to practice because you're terrified that when you die, things can be worse. So we have topics we're going to look at of, number one, precious human rebirth. And I want to explain to you, how do you look at that topic and meditate on it? A second topic is this situation, precious human rebirth, is quickly falling away, passing away. Soon I'm going to die, death and impermanence. After I die, things could get much worse, lower realms of existence, okay? Or the 6 realms of existence. We'll look at that, okay? But that generates a fear in me, okay? But I'm not going to let the fear paralyze me. I want to use it to take refuge in Buddhism. Well, what's refuge about? What does that mean? The sacred door through which teachings are entered. Do I have refuge? I thought I had refuge. Do I not have it? Do I really understand the precepts? So we're going to look at that. And the last part of this scope of this motivation is karma, because then I take refuge and I need to know how to conduct myself. So when you're looking at precious human rebirth, it's a great way to orient your mind. And I like it that it starts with the Lam Rim. And why? It uplifts your mind. I'm good enough to be on this path and practice. This is a hard one for Westerners. Sometimes I start here with Westerners and sometimes we never leave this topic. It's a big topic for Westerners because we feel so negative about ourselves. Okay? So traditionally, with perfect or precious human rebirth, we're looking at 18 situations and the rarity of that rebirth. Okay? When I say 18 situations, there's 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses or endowments. 8 situations you're free from and 10 situations you have that make up a precious human rebirth. It's not just being a human. Okay, what you're free from. Let's look at this. What we're free from. We're free from 4 other realms. Okay, so you're free from being in a hell realm. You're free from being a hungry ghost. You're free from being in the animal realm. And you're free from being a long life God. So in this situation, they're combining the 2 God realms, hedonistic God realm and the jealous God realm. 4 different realms as a human we are free from. And the human is the optimum rebirth to get enlightened, because you have a balance of leisure that affords you to come to a class like this, to do retreat, to meditate, to buy books on Dharma and read them, right? And then you have a balance of suffering. There's still suffering in your life that motivates you to go, I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of having bad relationships like this. I'm so tired of having negative thoughts in my mind. I'm so tired of being on a planet with war, whatever it is, to see people suffering. I'm so tired of addiction and mental illness, whatever it is. So you have that balance as a human, okay? Here's 4 additional freedoms, okay? These are more specific. Freedom from being born at a time when a Buddha didn't appear, okay? You're free from being born in a place with no Dharma. You're free from being born with defective sense faculties, and you're free from holding wrong views. So these are pretty self-explanatory, but there will be, they say, another world time, another eon we go through, and a Buddha won't even appear. Buddha won't even appear. And I would even say in my short life trajectory, it's a little stunning for me right now. I got into the Dharma at 1987. So it's a ways ago. But I even came a little later than the hippie generation. I'm a little younger than them. So there were people at this for 15 years before me that met Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Lama Yeshe, started centers like that. Then I came along, 87, okay? And then in the 90s, I was in California and we had the kind of golden age. Everybody was practicing. We had amazing, amazing programs at our centers with major lamas coming, staying for a month and leading retreats, and a lot of people engaging in the retreats. So letting go, making sure they had time off from work. This job wasn't as important. And a lot of people came to serve the centers and decided, I don't need that kind of job. I'm going to go work at a center, where I have less money, things. And it was really a kind of golden age that we created. And now I'm noticing just so many excuses people have of not really interested in any kind of retreat like that, not interested in doing a Vajrasattva retreat, not, minimal level of practice. And it's just kind of what they said about the degenerate times, that this would happen. It gets harder to practice. We're more distracted. The cell phone was invented, and many things about the internet. And it's just natural. I mean, these things have happened and there's benefits to them, but based on our attachment, there can be detriments. So as a result, it's harder for people to practice like that. So that's just a sign. They said, Buddhism said this was coming, this time was coming. So you look at a time, eventually the Dharma will disappear again. It's disappeared before, and then it will come back again. So the causes have to come together. So, so right now we actually have Shakyamuni Buddha existed. Not only that, he taught. Fantastic, okay? There's also, you were not born in a place that doesn't allow you to practice Dharma. Okay, Saudi Arabia, it's illegal to practice Dharma. We had a student come and she was from Saudi Arabia. She came to a retreat. Mandala magazine used to be sent out to many members. It used to be in print form and it came in a clear plastic wrapper, like magazines used to come to us, right? And she said, I can't get this. It's illegal for me to get this in Saudi Arabia. Could you get it and send it to me in a brown wrapper? Can you imagine living like that? Not allowed to practice Dharma, okay? So we don't have that, we're free from that. You don't have defective senses. People that are deaf have a harder time at teachings to hear the teaching, to be able to get that oral transmission of the teaching. You can still study and do retreat and read, but you're missing one component. It's ear whispered teachings, our lineage, and that means it's passed directly from the teacher's mouth to your ears, to hear it, to get that transmission. You can certainly read and do other things, read people's notes, but there's one component slightly missing. And other people with defective faculties, let's say mental illness, addiction, learning disabilities, they have a harder time to, you have to be mentally healthy to practice Dharma like that. Freedom from holding wrong views. So that would be if you're feeling that I mentioned to you, Buddhism teaches that everything changes and one day you're going to die, and you say, I think that's garbage, that's holding a wrong view. Okay. It's different than being discerning, where you say, I'm not really sure about reincarnation. I want to check on that a little bit more. I'm not sure that I believe in that. That's different. That's healthy. So it's very healthy for you to investigate, please, everything I'm saying to you and all the information I give you. Check it in your own life. How does it work? How do I feel about that? Try this technique. Does it work for you? You have to check yourself. You have to cook it. Okay. Let me go through the 10 endowments. 5 of them are personal and 5 are environmental. Okay. Here are the 5 that are personal. And they're related to the freedoms. You're born a human. We've already talked about being free of the other realms. You're born in what's called the center of a religious country. What that means, again, a country you can practice Dharma. Number 3, you're born with a well-functioning body and mind. Okay, so again, not the defective sense faculties, well-functioning body and mind. Great. You're born not having committed any of the 5 heinous crimes. What are those? 5 heinous crimes: killing your mother, killing your father, killing an arhat. And what an arhat is one who has reached liberation or nirvana, which in a sense is enlightenment according to the Hinayana tradition. Okay. Causing a schism, a break in a spiritual community. And the 5th one is drawing blood from an enlightened being with intent to harm. Those are the 5 heinous crimes. If you've committed any of those crimes in this life, they say traditionally you will not be able to bring your spiritual endeavors to fruition, meaning you won't be able to get enlightened in this lifetime. However, you can purify anything in this life or future lives, and in future lives, you can still get enlightened, but not in the lifetime that you actually committed one of those 5 heinous crimes. And here is the, let's see, what was the, okay. And the 5th endowment, 5th personal endowment, you have faith in the Dharma. You have faith in the Dharma. This doesn't mean that you believe every single aspect of the Dharma yet, but obviously something's holding you to the class. Something caused you to sign up that, hey, maybe this is an authentic path. Something like this. You have some faith in the Dharma. Fantastic endowment. Here's the 5 circumstantial, or I'll call them environmental endowments or richnesses. It's the same. Okay. You're born in a fortunate period when a Buddha existed. Okay. So that's, again, we're free from being at a time when Buddha didn't exist. Fortunate period, Shakyamuni Buddha appeared. Somebody got enlightened 2,600 years ago. Okay. Here's number 2. He taught the Dharma. He taught you how you get enlightened. That's the second circumstantial endowment. Number 3, you're born in a fortunate period where the Dharma exists and flourishes. Okay. Thupten Kunga Center, for one. Land of Medicine Buddha. There's centers. There's people that support the centers. There's people that work at the centers as volunteers. People that benefact the centers, and all of you that sign up and use the center and feel like it's good to make offerings and I want to sign up and I register for this class. Fantastic. Okay. Number 4, you're born in a fortunate period where we're able to meet pure followers of the Buddhist teachings. Okay. That's relating to monks and nuns. On a higher level, related to fully ordained monks and nuns. Venerable Tendrin is a fully ordained nun. Okay. I'm not fully ordained. It doesn't really exist in our tradition. I haven't been able to do the ceremonies and the training she did in Taiwan, I think, and other countries like that. Korea, I think, has the full ordination. We don't have it in Tibetan tradition. And you're born in a fortunate period when practitioners can enjoy some kind of support. Well, I'd say that's a little questionable at times, but is ideally, but I'm again looking at the fact that Thupten Kunga Center exists, the fact that Land of Medicine Buddha exists, And they have given me a small cabin to stay in right now. That's great. I mean, they would buy food for me. They would buy food, you know, minimal food for me. But right now I just thought, because we're struggling, I just buy my own food. You know, I don't spend that much on food, but that's fine. But eventually they'll be paying for my food. They give me a small stipend like that. Right now that's existing. So that's really wonderful because of people supporting our centers like that. 10 endowments. So those are the 8 freedoms, 10 endowments like that. So what you want to do is you want to slowly, when you can, and this is separate from, but I just want to give you a bigger view of the Lam Rim. This is not one of our traditional meditations in this class. I mentioned, please do the meditation on renunciation. That is part of the materials you have. But ideally, it would be neat to go through and reflect on what would it be like. Just imagine, for instance, when you're doing meditation on this, on perfect human rebirth, what would it be like to be in a world system where the Buddha never came, never manifested? Think about it. There wouldn't be Thupten Khunga Center. No. There wouldn't be an idea of Patty and Cecilia helping the spiritual program coordinator of that center. That wouldn't exist. Patty would be doing something else, I bet. Right? I wouldn't be a Buddhist nun, for one. You wouldn't have any images of Buddhas in your house. No statues like that. I can see behind Maureen. Sorry, I'm just picking on Maureen right now. Behind Maureen, she's got sattsas. So you see in her windowsill, they're little plaster images. Okay, and these ones I happen to make and I ship them to her. And some of you have sattsas for me that I shipped like that. So they wouldn't exist. I would never have done that practice. Would never have been engaged in any kind of practice like that. So what you really want to do is you take some time, take 10 minutes, and you would think slowly, oh, there'd be no Dalai Lama, no Tibetan monks or nuns, wouldn't be any kind of outfit like this. You know, I might even have hair. Can you imagine? What a shock, right? But there'd be no Lama Zopa Rinpoche looking like a Tibetan monk. There'd be no monasteries or nunneries in the south of India or in Tibet. No, like, you know, you just take that all away of what exists in Asia, all those incredible temples and statues and thangkas and pictures, and none of that would exist. That's amazing. So you slowly go through each situation. And then another thing you want to look at is the rarity. And this is a hard one for us, the rarity of obtaining a precious human rebirth. We got here and we go, well, I'm probably going to get back here to a human rebirth. People think. You don't know. You don't know that. But we think, oh, I got here. So, you know, great. So people that believe in reincarnation or thinking about it, you don't really know. It's extremely rare. And they give analogies in the traditional Lam Rim. They give analogies. Okay. And the analogies, one of the analogies, I couldn't get my mind around it for years. The blind sea turtle. Like all I had to hear was a teacher say, oh, the blind sea turtle. And my mind just shut down. I was like, oh, they're talking about the sea turtle again. I didn't get it. Here's the analogy. If you have a blind sea turtle that surfaces to the top of the water to get air once every 100 years, and you know how the seas of the world are vast. On the seas of the world is floating a golden yolk, like a lifesaver. So it's got a hole in the center that they throw out for people when they're drowning. Okay, it's a floating yolk, hole in the middle, and it's just randomly floating on all the seas of the world, going around. Once every 100 years, the blind sea turtle will surface to take air. What are the chances of it getting its head through the yolk? That's a precious human rebirth, right? So what I did finally in a retreat I did many years ago is somehow I was like, I got to get into this rarity thing, not really getting the rarity. So I thought first about the water, how much water the seas of the world have. And I really just spent and I was in a longer retreat, so I had days to kind of one session a day to go like, wow, the water, I'm really with the water right now. There's a lot of water. That's big. Till I got that feeling of the immensity of the water. Then I got the yolk there. Okay, so really totally concentrating my mind on that over and over and over of like, then I placed the sea turtle. I was like, it's never going to get his head through. what are the chances? I mean, over and over I did it, over and over, one session a day, because I had 4 sessions, different meditations in different sessions. And one session I was on Precious Human Rebirth, going through that. And I was like, it'll never get its neck through. Over, so till I could feel the conviction in my heart, wow, like I made it here. I better make sure I make it here again. I better do whatever I can do to appreciate. So it really invigorates your practice, can invigorate your practice. Okay. And then one year, honestly, some of you heard this story. I used to teach in Mexico. We have a center in Cozumel, and I used to go there. They would invite me. Very nice people. We have centers all over Mexico. I love the Mexican centers, and I love going there. I have a really strong connection with Mexico. And the people that hosted me, the man of the family used to have a dive shop and wanted me to go diving with them. But I'm not certified to scuba dive, but he pushed and pushed and pushed. And he said, look, you'll snorkel. You snorkel on the surface. We're going to go diving, but I want you to come out with us on the boat. And I finally agreed. He was so insistent. I said, okay. And you know what he said to me? He said, there's a Geshe in the North Carolina Center. Some of you know Geshe Gellick. Cecilia knows him. He's a dear friend. He's a wonderful Larampa, highest level Geshe. Wonderful. He's been to teach in Mexico. I kept saying, no, I don't need to go. I'm a nun. I'm not going to go. I'm not going. I'm not going. And then the guy says to me, Geshe Gellick came. That was a little, so then I said, I knew he just really wanted me to come out. Okay, I said, I'll go. So I'm snorkeling now. Anyway, I love seawater. Put me in the ocean any day. Love it. One of my favorite things. Off snorkeling, their underwater thing. And I'm just snorkeling along, happy as a clam, the sun, great, no problem. Got my flippers, my mask. All of a sudden I look, the sea turtle comes. Right in front of me, right in front of me goes, sea turtle. And I have a yoke tied to my ankle. I have an orange yoke, lifesaver tied. The reason is they tie it to you so other boats see that somebody's snorkeling, so they don't run you over. So you always have to have this if you're going to snorkel out at sea. That and I'm like, I got that. It wasn't blind. The sea turtle didn't look blind, but right in front of me. But again, if you're glommed with the Dharma, right away my mind went to Precious Human Rebirth. I went, oh my God, the sea turtle. And then I had a little guilt. This is what I'm doing with my Precious Human Rebirth. I'm snorkeling. Okay, but we need breaks. It's okay, we need breaks. Okay, but then I watched. I was like, and there's the yoke. It didn't get its head through. But again, these things play back to you. They can mirror back. They remind us. So think about the rarity of your Precious Human Rebirth. Here's another way they talk about it. This one's so hard to imagine. They talk about if you have a straight head pin, the little pins with the little top on it, you know how small that is. And they say, if you think about all the sand grains all over the planet, well, that's a lot of sand. You know how tiny the sand grains are. If you put a little honey on the top of the pin, so you want to first get your mind into all the sand grains in all the riverbeds, in all the oceans, whether it's a wet ocean or a dried up ocean, all over the planet. So first you feel the vastness of that, right? And then I imagine my pin and I dip the top in honey and turn it over in the sand and I pick it up. And there's a few grains that stick to the top of the pin, right? That's a Precious Human Rebirth. That's how many people get a Precious Human Rebirth. So you want to over and over in your mind, soak your mind in that rarity to invigorate your practice. Slowly. Next topic. So this situation's quickly passing away, as you know, Precious Human Rebirth. It's going. And I've talked a lot before in other classes about death and impermanence, but as you know, everything changes. Everything is changing right now. You might feel like the walls of your room are solid and they maintain a certain solidity to appearance, but on a molecular level, we know there's molecules moving around just in a slower configuration. That's why it's more solid. We know in water, they move more quickly. In air, even more quickly. That's the nature of matter, okay? But those walls right now, they're changing. And in fact, the ceiling of my head has a crack in it because the drywall is falling and it's been getting more and more extreme as I live here in the last month. So I know it's changing. This is no solid whatever. And the next earthquake that comes around, I'm sure it's going to be a really big crack like that. So it's very possible. So again, you want to first explore your relationship with change. I've definitely talked about this in other classes some of you have done with me. What's your relationship with change? I'd really love you this week to look at your relationship with change. And notice, what do you cling to that you don't want to change? We all have these concepts of, I wish things could just stay the same. I wish this would never, let alone our own aging process, let alone our own aging process. So explore the suffering change causes you. And also please explore your resistance to change. So the stronger resistance you have to change, the more you'll suffer, because the nature of reality is everything changes. So if you're more fluid, but I'm going to say in a practical way, the easier it is for you. Now, the reason I said in a practical way, let's say a friend makes lunch plans with you. At the last minute, they cancel. They send you a text, I can't make it. Regardless of why, whatever. Okay, all right, one canceled thing, okay, no big deal. You make plans for another couple weeks from now. Again, at the last minute, they cancel. Okay, then they want to set up a third time. So it's perfectly okay on a practical level to say to them, well, you know, you canceled twice at the last minute. I had some other things I needed to do as well, but I was really looking forward to that time. You can do it in a very compassionate way. But this next time, I want to let us set up a date, but I really want to make sure that it's going to work for you. So I just wanted to express, you know, so perfectly fine to express in a nice way what's going on for you. If the person's really flaky and you think they're going to cancel again at the last minute, why don't you set it up in a way where you're home doing your own thing anyway, and whether they show up or not, it doesn't really matter. You've got it on your calendar, but you're going to be home working anyway. They come, great. They cancel at the last minute. You're still doing your thing. Okay. But change happens. So some people get really upset by that. Some people get, you know, have traumas when they're moving, traumas when their kids leave the house, traumas about changing family dynamics. All kinds of things change. Your boss changes jobs. Your thing, you know, Dharma centers, people were constantly at a Dharma retreat center, meaning a residential center where people live and you have a staff of anywhere from like 7 to 20 people. The staff was constantly turning over again and again, because we didn't pay people that much. The housing was limited, things like that. So you had to be really dedicated and committed that you wanted to be on a spiritual path. And that's when it works well for people. That's when it works best for people. They're willing to kind of sacrifice a little bit more. So look at your relationship with change. What can you adjust a little bit? And again, noting that things change on a gross level. Your friend cancels plans, right? Things change on a more subtle level. Your hair's getting grayer. Normal. You're getting more wrinkles in your skin, but you're not really noticing it. Things change on a most subtle level. Even molecular changes we're far from aware of, like that. The clear light nature of the mind changing. The mind and its stream of thoughts changing experience, like with most subtle, very subtle, like that. Okay. So the next thing, the biggest change we'll encounter is death. Death awareness, amazing. And we have different death meditations we do in our tradition. The simplest is, and I try to do this every morning, waking up and really with a conviction, this is my last day. This is my last day. So the first, and I've done this with many of you before, the first minute or two of my waking up. So I come into consciousness with an alarm or waking up naturally, doesn't matter. First minute or two, inhaling deeply, wow, precious human rebirth. Just reflect for a moment. I am a human. I wake up, I'm still in the Amy life. Okay. The Amy life, the Amy body, it's not perfect, but it's a pretty blessed existence. Pretty good scene I got this time around. Somebody did a lot of work in my consciousness back then, past lives, to get me where I am here. Fantastic. Unbelievable. Okay, so I wake up and have just a moment or two succulence, gratitude. The gratitude's uplifting for me for my day. You don't want to wake up with a groan and, oh, another thing, you know, my problems, my list. No, problems and lists are there. I'm not focused on that now. That's not my object of meditation or reflection. It's my precious human rebirth. How fantastic, right? I wake up in a comfortable bed. It's relatively safe. I have food, clothing, and shelter. On and on. I met the Dharma. I have incredible teachers, friends, family, unbelievable. Just have a minute or two. And you can elaborate, get creative, great. Next minute or two, I'm going to die soon. Death is coming. In fact, this could be it. This could be my last day. And I really let my mind kind of be there a little bit. This is really it. What if I were actively dying now? What would be important today? One day I will be actively dying, or maybe death will come really quickly. Like that, it's definitely going to happen. It's definitely coming, and it's coming soon. Looking at the ages of some of you, it's coming soon. Okay. So I'm not freaking myself out, paralyzed. I'm like, so I really want to use the day in a most meaningful way. It's the best thing I can do today, right? It's me investing the best way I can do it. That's all I can do. I can only do my best. So I want to from there set that motivation while I'm lying in bed. I really want to make the most meaning of today. Could be my last chance. I really want to go for it today, like that. Now, we won't be able to totally go for it every day because some days you may not feel as well. Okay, so take care of yourself, but have it in the back of your mind. Still going to try to make meaning, still going to try to do some practice. I'm still going to show up for my mind. You know, whatever's, negative thought comes, okay, let it go. It's just coming, not, apply an antidote. Positive thought comes, wonderful, enhance that. Like that, slowly. Okay, so death and impermanence. So the easiest one is waking up. This is my last day. Here's the 9-point death meditation. This is a longer reflection. Okay. There's 3 headings. Number 1, who remembers from some death courses? 3 main headings we do under this 9-point death meditation. What are the 3 main headings? Number 1.
Death is going to happen.
Death is going to happen. It's certain. Death is certain. Death is
We
coming.
don't know when. Oh,
Number 2, Cecilia.
we don't know when.
We don't know when. We don't know when it's coming. Number 3. What's the 3rd main heading? Some of you know this. Maybe you don't. The only thing that really benefits you at the death time is your Dharma practice. So death is certain. The time of death is uncertain. And the only thing that benefits you at the death time is your Dharma practice. Okay. Each of these 3 roots, they're called, has 3 reasonings under them. And what you do is you meditate slowly on those reasonings. Over time, people map out the whole year of a Lam Rim practice. So the whole year, 12 months, you have 3 scopes, 4 months of scope. And what you're going to do in that 4-month period is you make your schedule. So what are the topics in the lower scope? Motivation. And I'm going to map out those main topics, figure out how many weeks do I need on each topic, and you get yourself 10 or 20 minutes a day, and you go through those topics. Take a year. You finish a year, go back and do it again, right? Or focus on one of the scopes, and you go, I want to do more on bodhicitta now. I want to spend a month on bodhicitta meditation. Fantastic way to live your life. Really great way to live your life. Okay. So there's reasonings. There's 9 reasonings because each root has 3 reasonings, and those reasonings will lead you to 3 resolutions that will deepen your practice. Okay. Here's the first 3 reasonings under death is certain. Number 1, everybody dies. I think we understand that intellectually. Okay. Number 2, every moment you're closer to death. Every moment, it's like a clock ticking. Another second closer. We're another Tuesday closer. We're another class closer. You're another breakfast closer to death. You can slowly move yourself, motivate yourself through activities. Oh, I'm another weekend closer. Another Dharma course closer. Another dinner closer. Another sip of the tea closer. Another phone conversation with somebody closer to death. closer to death. Third reasoning under death is certain, very little time we spend practicing Dharma. So you would slowly read about these topics, understand what you're meditating on, take the essence of it, map it out for yourself. I've often helped people with some of those outlines, and we have outlines as well. And there's one of the outlines in the materials is Nick Rebush's outline of the Lamrim, which is great that you can read. I would definitely have you take a look at that, which we mentioned last week. And then slowly go through the topics, meditate a bit on them, which leads you, death is certain, to a resolution. I have to practice, because death's coming. So slowly as you do these meditations, it's coming, I have to practice. This leads us to the next one. The time of death is uncertain. This is a harder point to realize. We know we're going to die. We intellectually have it. We don't have it experientially in our heart, but intellectually we get it. But the time of death, how many times do I hear people say, well, when I'm old, I'm going to, you don't know if you'll live to be old. You don't know that. So I changed my language to say, if I live to be old, my sister and I joke, if I live to be old, maybe we'll be at that nursing home together, something, but you don't know. So watch your language, change your language, reflecting. You don't really know if you're going to live at that point. Here's the three reasonings under this point. Number one, we live in a world system with an unfixed lifespan. As we know, people die at all ages. Number two, there are many more things contributing to your death than supporting your life. Number three, the body is very fragile and delicate. There's many things that can, so what you want to do again is read more deeply on those sections, which come in some of your readings as well, come in the readings. Read more deeply on the sections that lead you to a resolution. Not only am I going to practice, that's a resolution from the first root and the reasonings, I have to practice now. I have to practice now. I have to get it going now because I don't know how much time I have. The third root, the only thing that benefits us at the death time is our Dharma practice. This has three reasonings, okay? Your possessions are of no help to you. And I sometimes say your position and your possessions, okay? Now, if you have a lot of money, and I've seen very rich people die, if you have a lot of money, you might be able to control where you die. People say, I want to die at home. You can hire 24-hour nursing care, have every perfect hospital bed and every perfect thing that you have around you, the massage therapist, the acupuncturist, whatever you want, perfect food. I've still seen people miserable when they're dying with that set up. I've seen poor people dying quite peacefully. So money doesn't do it for you because it's your mind going through the experience itself. If your mind's not prepared well, it doesn't matter how many possessions you have. Okay? Number two, family and friends. This is tricky for people. Are they of any help to you? If they know your practice and they know your wishes and exactly what you'd like at the death time and can do your practice around you and have the right ambient setting that they set up, that can be really helpful and a good support. Sometimes, however, we know we have relatives and friends that are not Dharma practitioners. So they don't know what we want. They may be in charge of our finances and our wills and living wills, and they may be doing some things we're not happy with. They may be talking about our possessions while we can still hear in the room. There may be family fighting over possessions you have in the room with you, talking about your mortgage or something when you're dying. Is that what you want coming up? They may be saying, oh, we're not doing any of the spiritual practices she wanted, but we're bringing the priest in to do last rites. And that's not really what you wanted. Not allowing any of the prayers to be played for you that you want to hear and things like that. Sometimes they're crying over you, begging you not to die, that they don't know how to live without you. So you have to set that up, and do set it up now of what kind of directives you want, and make sure the appropriate copies are legalized, right? And given to appropriate people that you feel will carry out your wishes. It's really, really important. And this leads you to a resolution. And sorry, the third one is your body's of no help to you, because your body's usually the thing it's matter, it wears out. And these three components of these three reasonings lead you to a conviction, a resolution. Not only must I practice now, I must practice well, to have that, build that rich, consistent practice that's going to be there to meet me at the death time, because it's there in life. So my mind's familiarized. So at death time, I can have a peaceful transition. Any questions, please? Everyone is digesting?
I have a question about the precious human rebirth.
Yeah.
So if the practice of Dharma, if the accumulation of merit is what determines your rebirth, why do you talk about it being so hard to attain? And why do we sometimes pray and wish for lamas and advanced spiritual people to have a fortuitous rebirth? Isn't that a given?
I think for highly realized beings, I would think it would be a given. You know, we're usually praying to meet them again, that they'll come back to us and give teachings. But for ordinary people, there's so many factors that influence a positive rebirth. So it's not just accumulation of merit, it's a purification of negativities. It's what your mind is overly familiar with in life that will appear at death. It's sometimes they say closer to death, as the mind gets more subtle, that kind of mind is incredibly important at the death time. So if you have a bunch of negative thoughts coming up, that has a huge influence. Karma from past lives has a huge influence on the rebirth you'll take. So there's many factors. There's many factors.
And yet there are people reborn who you would think that the seeds of evil are already in them, and they are reborn into a position where they can cause suffering for great numbers of people. How do they merit the human rebirth? How did they get here?
Well, they got a human rebirth, which you're right, takes a lot of merit. They don't have a precious human rebirth because they haven't met the Dharma. If you want to take someone like Vladimir Putin right now, okay?
Yep.
Now, I'm not going to say he's a bad person. I believe he has Buddha nature. I have compassion for him. Buddha nature means he's not a Buddha, but he has a potential, just like everyone with a consciousness. However, what we would say is he must have done in past lives many, many virtuous things that got him into a human rebirth with great advantages and power. Okay. And right now, there's also deep obscuration that's causing him to harm a lot of other people. And causing him, there's also imprints in his consciousness that cause him to have tremendous amount of negative ego. So that's why karma is so intricate. That's why with karma, we want to be very skillful with how we're using our body, speech, and mind, right? Thank you. Good, great questions.
I have a quick question on karma.
Please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, please, please.
So what I find interesting about karma, I guess I'm trying to understand is, you know, there's a cause and an effect, and obviously, say if you do bad things, that creates bad karma for you. But wouldn't that karma from previous lives be what's causing you to do the bad things?
Great
So in
question.
other words, how do you avoid that?
Yeah. Is it, and this is the question that comes up, is it karma or is it free will? Right? Do I have a choice?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Or is it all dictated from previous karma, from the seeds that are already there? Okay. So thank you for saying that. I put Glenn in this class because he's a plant, and that's part of your homework for this week. Okay. I was waiting for someone to see if we get to that question. So is it karma or is it free will? I want you to think about that. Okay, and then we'll talk about that next week because that's a great question. We might even have a short little breakout sessions that I'll put you in, and you guys can chew on it a little bit with another partner. See how it goes. So Glenn, can you wait till next week?
Absolutely.
And
Thank
think
you.
about that, because it's a great question. And, you know, how do we participate in karma, let's say, if it's all dictated, or is it dictated? That.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to stop there for tonight. And we're going to go on next week. We're going to talk about the homework questions are, please try to start doing the renunciation meditation. I'd really like you to do that. Break it down slowly. Try to really put yourself in that and try your best. I'd like to know your relationship with change. Is it karma or is it free will is another question. And then the other things with the readings, let me just find here we go, is one of the readings, and please look at, and this was from last week, I talked, just to refer, the Wish Fulfilling Golden Sun, I'd mentioned you to please read, which is about the life story, or teachings of the direct meditations, like that. There's page numbers. Turning the Wheel by Lama Yeshe, which is in your required readings. Please read that. And there's an outline of the path to enlightenment. I hope some of you have had a look at already. That was last week. And so this week, another reading in the required readings is Method, Wisdom, and the Three Paths by Geshe Lundrup Zopa. I loved Geshe Zopa. He was a professor at the University of Wisconsin in Madison for years. One of the first Tibetan lamas to come to the West. I think he came in the 60s. There were like 2 or 3 of them that came. He ended up at the University of Wisconsin, ended up as a professor, learned to drive, started Deer Park Center there that's still existing outside of Madison. And he taught at the University of Wisconsin for about 30 to 40 years. He passed away. He was one of my teachers, one of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's teachers. Beautiful being. You can also read his life story and of his escape from Tibet, and a beautiful, beautiful book. And so that Method, Wisdom, and the Three Paths by Geshe Lundrup Zopa, please read that if you can this week. And then you can also read a section, just a few pages from Wisdom Energy, which is one of the texts we gave you a link last week in the materials. Wisdom Energy, a beautiful beginner book from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, pages 67 to 75. Like that, if you can start to read that, it's not that many pages. See what you can get through. I think it'll deepen your experience of the things that I'm talking about, which would be really helpful. And so I'm going to just do some dedications briefly, then I'm going to share my screen with you so that we can dedicate all the merit, whatever merit we've created from joining in this class. May we invest that merit right now in helping the people of Ukraine, helping that volatile, conflictive, violent situation to be subdued immediately, for the minds of all the leaders of the totalitarian regimes to merge their mind now with bodhicitta. And for all those suffering from COVID, may they be healed instantly. May COVID disappear from the planet along with all other pandemics now and in the future. May those who are struggling with body and mind be healed instantly. And for our own practices to quickly get enlightened so we can benefit all living beings. And before we do the dedications, I'd also like to dedicate to the great flourishing of Thupten Khunga Center and Land of Medicine Buddha and all of our centers to be great beacons for all of us, especially now in these difficult times. And for to alert you that March 3rd, as many of you know, is Tibetan New Year, Losar, is Losar. And Tibetan New Year, and that begins the first 2-week period of the Tibetan calendar that culminates in the full moon day of March 18th, the Day of Miracles. Okay, so the Day of Miracles is commemoration, those first 2 weeks, of the Buddha displayed a different miracle to inspire faith in his disciples in the Buddha Dharma. So it's a very significant time for you to practice when they call it a merit multiplying time. So whatever good you do multiplies more, and it's a great time to make donations to our centers. So I know various centers, we have a big donation letter that's going to land of Medicine Buddha, Thupten Khunga Center. So if you have another center closer to you, it's a really great time to be generous to your friends, your family, people like that. Fantastic. So just wanted to alert you of this period that we're coming into. Let me share my screen with everyone to do some dedication prayers. And I will make this bigger. Janju Sancho Rinpoche Ma Ke Panam Ge Gyurchi Ke Panyam Pa Me Pa Yi Gone Gondu Belwar Sho. However many sick sentient beings there are, may they quickly be freed from all sicknesses. May all the sicknesses, without exception, of transmigratory beings never occur again. Let's do this dedication with emptiness that Rinpoche says is the most important due to all the past, present, and future merits collected by me, the numberless Buddhas, and the numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side. May I, who am completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of full enlightenment, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that state which is completely empty of existing from its own side, by myself alone, who am completely empty of existing from my own side. Any reflection you have of emptiness, just reflect for a moment. The long life prayers for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. For Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three sublime ones, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. So I may add in one of the homeworks from last week. I want you to keep thinking about renunciation because it's a key component of this class. What does it mean to you? What happens this week when your mind gets disturbed? You know, how does it work for you? Are you willing to figure out what is disturbing your mind and letting that go, giving it up? You know, just have a look at that. Just have a look at that. So thank you again to Thupten Khunga Center, Patty, Cecilia, thank you so much. And I wish you a great week. Patty will be sending out the homework reminder this week and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Venerable Amy. And for everyone who joined in, thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Please be well.
Thank you, Venerable Amy.
Namaste.
Namaste.